In this video, we're looking at hardware to connect to the internet. And before we look at the hardware itself, we're just going to look at a couple of words and what they mean. And the first word we're going to take a look at is bandwidth. And so when you see on TV or you see in an advert that something is going to get you a faster connection, it's generally not true. They're using the wrong word. And the reason is that the speed of a connection, well, that's how long it takes to get from a server to your computer. And that tends to be the same whichever device you connect with and however you connect, because it's really down to the distance from you and the server. If you want to get something off a server in America, that's going to take longer than a server which is in an office next door. What they're actually talking about is something called bandwidth. And what bandwidth is the amount of data transferred per second. And so here, if someone says, I can offer you a 30 megabit connection per second as opposed to a 5 megabit per second connection, they are giving you more bandwidth. So they're giving you the possibility of getting more data through in 1 second, but it's not faster. And I guess the reason they use the word faster is because when you're using your browser, it appears to be faster, but it's not quite the correct use of the word. The second word which we're looking at is one called modem. And in order to understand this word, we need to understand a word called modulation, because this is where modem comes from. So modulation is taking some signal, so typically we've got some binary from a computer, and on a wave, so sound operates in waves, and so does other things, like we have microwaves for Wi-Fi. So things that operate on waves, what we do is we modulate them with the signal which we want to transfer, and so it will end up looking more like this. And so by changing the frequency, by changing the amplitude, by changing how that wave appears, we can put a signal, so a binary signal for example, onto the wave, and then we can decode it. So modulation is this process of adding something. So here we're putting binary plus a wave, and we're modulating that wave so that it carries our binary signal with it, and that's modulation. And then demodulation is taking that modulated wave and then getting from it our binary signal again. And isn't it interesting that if we take this, which is mod, and dem, so if we put these two together, mod and dem, we get modem. And modem stands for modulation demodulation. So we're putting binary onto an audio wave or onto some kind of wave, and then we're getting the binary out at the other end. And that's how a modem works. So if you've ever used one of those old style modems, tend not to be around now, onto your ordinary audio voice phone line, you'll hear a load of squeaks and noises, and then you'll hear a load of what sounds like static and noise, and that's where it's modulating that binary signal, so it's putting it onto the sound wave, and you hear this load of noise, and at the other end it's decoding what that noise is, demodulating it, and you need modems at both sides in order to do that. And so looking very simply at how the modem works, so this is an example of a modem. And although it's a fairly old device, this would have been one of the better modems. 56K here means 56 kilobits per second. Incredibly slow these days. 56 kilobits per second. And it's on a modem. And so what you'll do is you'll have it plugged into your phone line, and then no one else can use that phone line. You dial up a telephone number, and it connects to the other phone number, and then it starts modulating the signal, so it starts putting that binary onto the audio signal. You hear a load of hiss through the line, and it's sending that through. And what you'll have is you'll have one modem at your side, that will be sent through the phone line, and there'll be another modem at the other side which is demodulating your signal. And then that's modulating and sending back to you, and you're demodulating on your side. And so that's how the modem works. The other way, which is more common these days, is to use something known as an ADSL router. And this is an example of an ADSL router. First of all, what do these words mean? So ADSL means asymmetric digital subscriber line. There's also DSL, which is a digital subscriber line. And when you get told on ADSL that you've got a connection which is maybe 10 megabits per second, that is not 10 megabits per second coming down the line and 10 megabits per second going up the line. The asymmetric part, this part here, asymmetric, what that means is you might have 9 megabits per second coming down from their computer, and you might have 1 megabit per second of upload going to the internet. And the reason for that, most of the time you see your computer, you're consuming data, you're taking data. So if you're watching a film, all of that is just download, 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 with the most minute amount of upload just to start the film off and keep it running. Whereas the number of times you upload a photo, for example, is very small. So if you want to try this out, try uploading a huge amount of data and downloading a huge amount of data. You'll see that it's much faster. Or on the internet you can find websites that will test the connection going up and down. Digital subscriber line, though, will have the same going up as coming down. Now, what we've got here is on an ADSL router, so you have a router, so in itself you first of all have a LAN component. And so what I've got here is the option of connecting 4 computers. There's only 3 lights on, but we'll assume all 4 are on. So I've got a PC1, PC2, PC3 and PC4. And they all connect physically to this router. And 2 and 3 and 4. And this router itself also has wireless on it, so that's a wireless LAN. And so it's possible if I've got maybe a tablet computer or I've got a mobile phone, these can wirelessly connect into my router as well. And just connecting up like that, these computers are then able to talk and communicate to each other. So I have my own home network, my own LAN in home or wherever else this ADSL router is, maybe a small business. And then I've also got this part here, in this case it's DSL. And this is where I'm then connecting off to the internet. And so we need this connection, this DSL, to get us through the internet. And we can use ADSL or DSL, we can use that whilst making phone calls as well, because it's using a different part of the bandwidth. And what we're doing here with this router, we can use all of these PCs on the internet at the same time and these other devices on the internet at the same time, because this is acting both with the ADSL to connect to the internet and it's acting as a router as well. So it can route my signal from PC1 and it can say, oh, this is for the internet, it's not going to PC2, it's going off to the internet, and so it can route that off to the internet. And so there's 2 devices that we need in order to connect to the internet. Either we're going to use a modem, that's how it used to be done, or certain countries or certain regions that don't have ADSL, they will do that. Or we can use a router to connect to the internet, which allows many computers on at the same time.